Well, it's been kind of a slow Sunday. It's nice and shitty and rainy out now. We were dry up till 11, so I did manage to get the 1955 washed up, and I got the duals off of it, and I got the barn rearranged, and this thing fouled the plug while I was warming it up today, so I brought it up here and cleaned the plugs on it. Figured I'd let it dry off before I put it back in the barn, because it was sitting out in the rain while I was getting the power washer and everything put away, because I missed my mark on that. And then while I was doing all that, I got the old duals off the 1955, the old Field and Roads. Those guys are going on the 1950T, and I'm going to get rid of them junk-ass Dynatorques that are on it, because both tires have some pretty good vertical splits in the sidewalls, and by pretty good, I mean the one is opening up about yay far when it's sitting on the bottom. And I don't want to have any incidents while that thing's sitting up here in the shop getting tore apart, because just my luck, I'd get it up here, get the engine and everything out of it, it'd be sitting here light, and the sidewall would blow and cover the truck or the tools or something in chloride. So Friday, the T is going over and the tires are getting unloaded, and while I got it over there, normally I would just change the tires on it, but since I'm going to have it over at the tire place getting the tires unloaded, I'm going to piss on it. I'm going to have them change the tires. I am going to get those dismounted off the rims. I'll do that here and just take them the tires, but those tubes should be good, because we put new... Trying to remember, I think we put new tubes in those tires, because we put those tires on those rims. Pretty sure. It's been so long I can't remember. So the T's going in for its first step towards living again, to get tires swapped out before we bring it up here and have an accident. So that's gonna happen. This is the engine kit and everything for it. Sleeves and everything are in there. That's the gasket set for the 3-speed and the engine. Sprags in there, cam bearings are in there, wrist pin bushings are in there. Yeah, so all I need to do is get the crank out and figure out what I need for rods and mains, and figure out what I need for clutch packs, and all the major shit should be there, other than whatever little piddly crap we run into. And like I say, the head's been done, so that's good to go. But anyway, I said a couple weeks ago that I was going to kind of recap the crop year, and when I was talking about the combines. So this is going to be Harvest Reflections Part 2. So I guess the first thing we will talk about here is our rainfall, because this was kind of a jacked up year as far as rainfall went. I guess for starters, I started planting corn on May 1st. Finished up planting corn down in the muck on May 13th. And then got all my beans planted between May 14th and May 15th. So I was done planting on May 15th. So everything was in the ground nice and early, all things considered. But I started tracking rainfall on April 29th. And basically went until the end of August, because everything was starting to dry down so quick around here that basically by the end of August, any rainfall we were getting wasn't doing any good, because grain fill was done. It was basically just waiting for the crop to dry down, start harvest. So I stopped there. So where we got screwed right off the bat was in May, and this is the rain gauge at my house. Some places got a little bit more rain than this, other places got less rain than this. So this is just the average at my house. Some of these rain events, some of my fields didn't even get, because a lot of these came up out of Indiana, and the further north you got, the less rain you got. So just keep that in mind. But anyway, in May, we got basically 2.5 inches, 2.55 inches. June, we got 8.8, which sounds good, except for we were dry. Our first rainfall happened June 7th. But our first good rainfall, because between April 29th and June 7th, everything was like 0.5, 0.6. A lot of 0.1s, which, like, NOAA and the National Weather Service doesn't even consider 0.1 or a tenth, doesn't even consider a tenth of an inch of rain a rainfall event. So, but anyway, our first decent rain where we actually got a good soaker that actually did us any good did not occur until June 21st, when we got 1.5 inches. Then on June 25th, we got 2.25, and on June 26th, we got 2.1. So basically, we got the vast majority of our summer rain. Well, we got our 3 good summer rainfalls on those 3 days. Everything else was less, basically everything else was less than 1 inch. We only had 1, 2. Yeah, between June 26th, well, I guess it'd be between June 27th, the day after, between June 27th and August 29th, we only had 2 other rainfall events that were over 1 inch. Nope, 3. I missed that. We only had 3 other rainfalls that were over 1 inch. So in June, we got 8.8, but the vast majority of that came in 3 days, right at the end of the month. July, we got 3.8, with only 2 rainfall events over 1 inch. And then in August, we got 4.6, with only 1 rainfall event over 1 inch. And you compare that to our 10-year county average. Our average in May is 5.9, so we were way under there. June is 7.1, so we were actually over there. July, 5.7, so we were way under there. And August is 5 inches, so we were under there. So basically, add everything up, we were 4 inches short of our county average those 4 months. Which, June, July, August, those rainfalls are acceptable, because you got a root system there. Where we really got screwed was in May. That, in the end, it came out decent because yields and everything were good, because that rainfall right there, those 3 days, that saved our ass. If this trend would have continued through those 3 days and we didn't get that, let's fish a 2.25, 2 and 4 3/10, and then 1.5 inches, 5 8/10. If we didn't get that 5 8/10 of rain right there, and we'd have continued getting these 1/2 inches at a time, we would have burned up. Shit was in a really, really bad way up until here. And then we got dry again in this area in between July and August, and shit and stuff was starting to curl until we got this 1 incher right here. So yeah, it was kind of rough going there. But we came out all right. I do think I think it set us back some. I think we could have had an even better year had May. Even if we'd just had another inch in May, I think we'd have been, at least early May, to get stuff out of the ground, I think we'd have been in a lot better shape. Because like beans, there was beans around here that sat in the ground for 3 weeks, 4 weeks before they even sprouted. I had most of my fields, I got lucky and they came up okay, but I had 2 of them that came up uneven as hell. And it was like, you'd go out there and you'd check and there'd be some coming out of the ground. And you go out there a week later and you'd have some with their first trifoliate and there'd be some just coming out of the ground. And you go out there a week later and you have some with their second and third trifoliate and there'd be some just coming out of the ground. So I think beans got hurt worse than corn. But yeah. So anyway, that's enough about Rainfall. That's just to kind of give you a context as to what we're talking here. So, as far as corn goes, the field here at the house, I planted, that was the last of the LG seed I had left over from last year. So that was LG 5525. I think that might have hurt me just a tad on that ground, because obviously it was a year old and it had not been stored in. You really should store seed in not necessarily a refrigerated area, but something that's going to have a relatively constant temperature. And I just had them stored in the barn, so that stuff got frozen and then sat in the heat, and it just, so, but that field still averaged 155 on that LG. And then everything else was, everything except the muck was Wyckoff 2483. And then the muck was Wyckoff 2212. And I cannot remember my maturity groups on, or my maturity range on those. I should have wrote that down. But regardless, that LG went 155 bushel an acre. My best yield off of the 2483 was 178. And my best yield off of the muck down on that 2212 was 219. And that the bigger of the two fields got held back because that's the field that got all the frost damage at it. And in hindsight, I wish I'd went back and replanted it, but at the time it didn't look as bad as what it turned out to be. So that's what held back that number right there. But obviously, my best corn yield was that 219. Beans, I planted, everything was Wyckoff W2619, enlist beans. My best yield on that was right back here behind Mom and Dad's, was 65 bushel an acre. The worst was 48 bushel an acre, so not terrible. And actually, I think this field, this little 2-acre piece, might have actually been the best beans, but that load got, or that field and that field got cut together, and it was all in the same load, so I can't actually get an average off of that field, but that field did pretty damn good. So, as far as totals, for corn, hauled in 10,590 bushel for an average of 165.2 bushel an acre, which ain't bad, especially when you consider I had two cornfields that this guy right here only went 84, so that hurt, and that guy went 94, so that hurt. Everything else was 150 plus. Well, not that one, 143, but that's still, for what that field is, that's not bad. So those two, that would be 4 acres, and that would be, so that accounted for 6 acres, which is enough to hurt you for with what I farm. So average was 165, not terrible. Average moisture on corn was 17.8. I think my driest was 16.3, I think, and the wettest was 19.9. So everything was under 20%. Average test weight was 56.3. My lowest was 54.4. And my highest was 59.9. So excellent test weight. Soybean totals, 2,483 bushel. Bean average, or the average on beans 55.8, and average test weight 56.3, which is not bad at all. So my overall bean average is actually up almost 1.5 bushel from my normal average, which is good. And I didn't bother doing average moisture on beans because beans are so up and down. Average moisture on beans doesn't really matter. So yeah, that's basically where we ended up. So all in all, I am very happy with how this year went. Made out pretty damn good. Definitely nothing to be ashamed of. So, especially when you consider I put that shit in the ground with a 1950s grain drill and a 1970s plate planter. There's guys that average that with $500,000 planters, so anyway, I know this was just a short, boring one, but I said I was going to talk about that. I think for corn, I'm definitely probably going to stick with that 2212 down in the muck. The stalk strength on that stuff was nuts. I mean, the stalks weren't even overly, I mean, they were probably, I don't know, yay big around, so they weren't overly huge, but they were just tough, which was great because I had pretty much no down corn down there, and there's basically nothing for a windbreak. That the fence or the tree line at the back is so thin that, I mean, wind damage down there is pretty common, and I had none. So I was very, very, very happy with that 2212. So I'm definitely putting that back down there as long as they offer it again. I'm assuming they would. The 2483, I was happy with that. Don't see any reason to change for this year. Probably going to just see what else they have to offer just for shits and giggles. But I'm probably, in the past, I've planted up to 4 different hybrids trying to match hybrids to ground. That's just such a pain in the ass. It's just, the muck is obviously going to have its own hybrid because that's, you're going to want a racehorse hybrid down there for the kind of ground it is, and everything else you're going to want a workhorse hybrid because of the ground it is. So I'm come to the point where I'm going to stick to 2 hybrids until I get enough ground to justify more, just because it makes life so much easier not having to dick with cleaning the planter out that many times. So that's where I'm at on the corn. The beans, this is actually my second year on those 2619s. I was happy with them last year. I am happy with them this year. So, and that the 26 are group 2 6s. I do remember that. I'm pretty sure this 2212 was, that was either a 10, I can't remember if that was a 100 or a 101 day. Or 102. I know that was really short, and the 2483 wasn't that much longer. I don't think I had anything longer than 105. I know I didn't have anything longer than 105. So, yeah. Probably, unless they got something that they think's going to be better, I'm probably going to stick with the 2619s again for the beans, just because they dry down nice, they fill out good. I love those. I love those beans. So unless there's something they can tell me is for sure going to be better, I'm probably going to stick with those again. So yeah, that's basically where we're at. So like I say, I guess this video is not that short. It's been almost 20 minutes, but there was guys interested in that information. I told you I was going to talk about it, so we talked about it. Not much else I could have videoed today anyway, because it's so nasty and rainy and didn't really give you a whole lot of ambition to get out and do big things. So anyway, I think this week I'm going to try to get chainsaws serviced, because we got to get some fence line work done. One of which is a new field. We're going to take the Mini down and rip some trees out. So that's coming up. We're going to try to get that done before Christmas, so that all that stuff is out of the way. We don't got to worry about it while I'm working on the 19. Yeah, that's basically where we're at right now. So I do need to get the 4-wheel drive washed up at some point if the weather will allow, but it's supposed to get and stay pretty darn cold here after this. And I've learned that power washing stuff while it's close to or below freezing is just a waste of time, because the water blows dirt all over everything, and then it freezes, and then the dirt's froze to the side, and then you try to blow the ice off and it just blows it somewhere else, and it's just, I wish I had somewhere inside and heated to wash stuff and wax stuff and take care of stuff I'd actually like to take care of it, but that all comes with time. So anyway, I guess that's it for this one. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Sorry, it was kind of boring.